Namaskar and welcome to this exciting episode of Sattology, debunking mythology. Sattology means science of truth or study of truth. Opposite of that is mythology, which means science or study of fake news, fake, artificial, or not real. So don't use the word Sattology for ancient Indian history, such as Ramayana, Mahabharata, especially because those things have been validated by me and before me, many other scholars, and contemporary to me, also many other scholars. So, Sattology actually means a study or science of fake, lie, or imagination. So, let us welcome a very special guest. She's an editor of a very famous news portal in India called Sunday Guardian and the Daily Guardian. And also, she is a television anchor in India for NewsX, and also she runs her own YouTube channel. So let us welcome Joyeeta Basu. Namaskar.
Thank you. Thank you.
So Joyeeta, when we see today the global affairs and you are a journalist and you report from a observer point of view. So the biggest gorilla in the room is when it's happening Ukraine and Russia. Who done it for the gas Nord Stream 2? So now I'm asking this because that's a current topic right now. But I want to see your viewpoint on the India's position on this Russia-Ukrainian conflict which is going on. So how does India view it? And then you can answer this question as well.
You see, when we are talking about India, there has been a lot of criticism. If you have seen even the latest vote that took place at the United Nations Security Council, and where they talked about this Russian referendum that took place, and the thing is that in that vote, India abstained. But you see, at the same time, the attempt that is being made to paint India with China, that's also not correct because our positions are totally different. You see, our position, one of the reasons why we are taking a kind of, I would say, an abstention kind of a position is because we are going by the conversation that was taking place, that Paris process that happened, where they were supposed to talk and negotiation was supposed to happen. That was earlier in February this year, but that never completed. So India's position technically is that first of all you complete that. The ideal situation is that you have to come to the table and you have to start talking. And when we are talking about that, is one of the reasons why we said that when that conversation process is supposed to still go on, we should not be on the table, trying to condemn any particular party. So let that diplomatic process be finished, which was never finished. Russia, at the same time, kind of attacked Ukraine. But you see, the whole idea is that, we are being told that India is siding with Russia, which is not the case. India is not siding with Russia, but at the same time, because India has been, it's very tough to use the word neutral. I know, and I understand that. But India has been continuously, right from the beginning, talking about cessation of violence, immediate cessation of violence. We have been talking to, our Prime Minister has talked to Vladimir Putin, he has talked to Zelensky, saying that there has to be an immediate cessation of violence. And this stand here we have been holding throughout. And if you remember at the SCO summit, that Shanghai Cooperation Organization summit that took place about 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, Mr. Modi told Mr. Putin in public that this is not the era of war. So that was a very strong message that went out. And this is something we have been saying right from the beginning. But you see, when it comes to India-Russia relationship, there is a problem for us, and in fact, India-West relationship. Because you see, how do you solve a conundrum where most of your, I would say, soft power, your trade relationship, your people-to-people relationship is with the West. But when it comes to defense relationship, your defense relationship is primarily with Russia. I mean, Russia does not really matter when it comes to, say, maybe Indian students studying there. Okay, lots of them did. in Ukraine in particular, in Russia also they do. But our greater interaction is with the West. But at the same time, when you are looking at our defense preparedness, when you are looking at our relationship with Russia over the years, over the decades, there was a particular time we were considered a pariah by the West. They were not willing to share any technology with us. They wanted to stay they wanted us to stay a third world develop I mean, not even developing, it's a third world country which is worth nothing. But as you know, thing is, you see, Mr. Satsangi, India is an aspiring nation. India is a place where we are capable of a lot of things. We are kind of, I do not want to compare us with the United States, but at the same time, there is something called the Indian dream also. In this country also, the poorest of the poor, if they get a right kind of opportunity, they rise to the top. And it is happening. So you see, it is very difficult to, uh, mm, bottle India up and keep them in a corner. So that is where the West was not helping us at all, primarily because of historical reasons. Say there was not so much outreach to the West, say maybe from Mr. Nehru's part when Mr. Jawaharlal Nehru was Prime Minister. And it was at that time Mr. Jawaharlal Nehru and all, they kind of gave the push for India-Russia relationship at that point of time. And it's a fact that over the years, I mean, we called ourselves non-aligned, but we were we were close to Russia, very close to Russia, Soviet Russia, not Putin's Russia. We were very close to Soviet Russia. And as a result of which, because we have got terrible neighbors in the, like China and Pakistan, we have had fought wars with Pakistan. As soon as India was born, there was a war with Pakistan, which the Pakistanis started. 62, there was a war with China, which the Chinese started. 65, there was another war. 71, there was a war. So you see, in the 1990s, there was a war with Kargil, with Pakistan, and there's China sitting on our border, breathing down our neck. I mean, salami slicing our territory. I mean, we had a clash at Galwan 2 years back. Okay, so we live in a terrible neighborhood. So, in a new country that came into existence, no one from the West helped us. Okay, and it was the Russians who did it at that point of time in terms of military. So, what has happened is that over the years, our dependence on Russian military technology has increased to a large extent. It's a different matter that now we are trying to diversify, and we have diversified to a very large extent. I mean, but even then, we are looking at, when we are talking about our dependence on Russian defense material, we are talking about Russian defense equipment. Over the years, they not only shared technology with us, they shared the nuclear submarine technology with us, which the West refused to do. Okay, and if you look at our scientists and all, they can do wonders. They have been doing wonders, but not because of the West, primarily because of our own drive, and there has been some help from Russia. So you see, that historical legacy that is there, it is very difficult to cut off that bond even now. And this is something the West does not realize, or even if it does, it ignores. Because you see, now where we are as the world's fifth largest economy, we have overtaken the United Kingdom, by the way, and very soon they are saying inside the next few years, we are going to be the world's third largest economy. I mean, just after U.S, China, and then it's going to be India. So if we are where we are, we have done it on our own terms. But at the same time, there has been a mind when it comes to our defense relationship. We live in, as I said, we live in a very awful, terrible neighborhood. So the only, I would say, quote unquote, friend we have had was Russia, because our main military stuff has been coming from Russia. Even now, if you look at our defense relationship, I think around 60% of our of the equipment that we use, that is of Russian origin. 60%, especially in the army. Now, we have diversified to a large extent, of course, And the problem that is there with us, we still need, when it comes to maintenance of our what we have, our equipment and all, these parts and all, they're still of Russian origin. And a lot of them were, by the way, were coming from Ukraine. Because of the war, what has happened is, you see, a lot of this supply chain disruption has taken place for us in terms of maintaining our defense equipment. So it is not easy for us to cut off that tie living in a neighborhood which is so vicious and awful. Okay. And when we are looking at that, considering Russia is almost our neighbor, just Afghanistan, and then there is the stans, Central Asian republics. So when they are there, we already, as I said, we already have an enemy in Pakistan, we already have an enemy in China. Do we want to make another big country like Russia, an enemy? So at the same time, we realize that our dependence on Russian defense equipment material has to stop. How do we do that? Number one, as I said, diversifying. Number two, how do we do it is making at home. We are fast making at home, by the way. And defense corridors are being set up. Lots of things, a lot of work is going on. So the thing is, when we are looking at that, we have started selling defense equipment to the South China Sea countries like Philippines. Vietnam is coming. They are our buyers. So that diversification has already started. We are buying from the Americans. We are no longer purchasing. Russia is no longer the largest supplier of military equipment to us. I think it has been taken over by the United States. So we have started buying from the US. We are buying from the French. We are buying from the Israelis, and we are making at home. And we are still dependent on Russia, as I said, for the maintenance of what we already have. So it is not so easy for us to cut off ties and say, sorry, Russia, it's bye-bye with you. We cannot afford to do that. And number two, our foreign policy, we are very clear about one thing. You see, when it comes to our foreign policy, of course, Mr. Jaishankar, as many of people may be knowing over here, they have been talking in terms of multilateralism. We have been talking in terms of multilateralism. You see, China is pushing the world towards what it calls a bilateral construct. Now, when it comes to a bilateral construct, it is US versus China. That is what they are looking at. You see, when it comes to that particular construct, we are saying, no, we don't accept that. We don't accept that. And if you have been listening to Mr. Jaishankar's speech, in fact, I would suggest to everyone who is watching this program or who will watch it in the future, that check out Mr. Jaishankar's speech, where he talks about, I don't accept a world, where you're talking in terms of you're either with us or with them. We don't. We are the world's fifth largest economy, soon going to be the third largest. We have got, I think, about 10% or 20% of the world's population, 1/5 of the world's population. Why can we not carve our own path out? And we do not want to belong to any blocks. We do not, and it is not non-aligned, because as I am going to say, non-alignment, when you look back at non-alignment was never really neutral. Non-alignment was primarily being in the Soviet bloc, but we are not in that non-alignment phase. We are now in a phase where we are talking about multilateralism, where we deal with everyone. Okay, and that is the reason why, in spite of being an buyer of arms, or not, I would say still not so much of arms and all, we have really cut it down. We're still maintaining a defense relationship with Russia. We still can be part of the Quad, and we are very serious about it. Now, when it comes to the Quad, where it is US, India, Australia, and Japan. Now, if we were in the Soviet bloc, this is the mistake that many people make, or many countries make. They try to paint us into the Soviet-Russian bloc, which we are not. If that was the case, our defense relationship with the US is getting stronger by the day. Okay, because we have signed the foundational agreements with them. We have been kind of I mean, there are regular military exchanges in terms of, we hold regular military exercises with them. We are regularly holding naval exercises with them, with all the four countries. We are seriously going into South China Sea. We are going to have some kind of a naval presence over there. We are sending the ships over there. You see, if you look at what we are doing, you will realize this is something. And if you look at the kind of reaction that has been coming from Russia with what we are, our relationship with the US is, with the democracies is, with the Quad countries is, they're extremely unhappy. And you see, at the same time, what we believe is, and what we have been pushing, in fact, Sunday Guardian is the newspaper I edit. Now, there we have been talking about, I think the West is making the fundamental mistake, or because there are too many vested interests entrenched in the system, the reason why they are refusing to, who benefit having Russia as an enemy. But Russia is not the enemy. The enemy is China. The problem is China. The thing is, you see, when you are looking at China, they are looking at complete domination of the Indo-Pacific. They are looking at, they're gradually taking over, making poor countries fall into a debt trap, making poor and kind of taking away their assets. They are moving towards a world, they're pushing the world towards what we can de-dollarization, where the dollar doesn't matter. So, okay, it is the Chinese are gradually, insidiously taking the world over. And this Russia-Ukraine war has been a boon for China, primarily because it has shifted the world's focus from the Indo-Pacific, where the actual, I would say, danger is, to something basically a guy, Vladimir Putin, who is actually bankrupt, who doesn't have any. He's a man who has been pushed to the corner. Okay, at the same time, if I can use the expression, he's actually in Xi Jinping's pocket. He cannot survive without Xi Jinping. So the more you push Russia to a corner, you see what is going to happen is that it is in China's benefit, because number one, you have such a big country in the Chinese camp, and at the same time, you are basically allowing China to control a huge part of, and China is also very happy because nobody is noticing what China is doing right now. So this war suits China in a very big way. And this is what we have been saying. Stop this war right now, because whatever you are doing, you are just shifting, you are just adding muscle to China. And China, which is facing a huge number of problems and all, you see, if you allow China to control the world, or to influence the world in the way the Americans have been influencing the world, the Chinese influence is pretty bad, primarily because they are not a democracy. They do not have a single element of, if I can say, human bone in them. I'm going to sound maybe extreme, but the fact is that I'm very, very wary of China with their kind of insidious influence. They are what we call 24/7. They are fighting a political warfare with the rest of the world, and it's all about Chinese domination. Xi Jinping is actually looking at, some kind of a middle kingdom. Xi Jinping has committed himself to bringing Taiwan back into China. So obviously, by war, it has to be when he is in power. So all these things make China a very, very malign influence. And we, as neighbor, live with them. So you see, live right next to them. And we know we are paying a daily cost, where our military is standing eyeball to eyeball along the line of actual control, which is considered unofficial border we have between China and us. China has been refusing to settle the border issue with us, because China doesn't want India to rise. So here the US understands that, India, by dint of being its economy, because it has got a huge military, because of in terms of population, because of what it has, a human capital that India has, we can counter China. And that's what we are doing every day. And China doesn't want us to rise. Now, our problem is that if Russia, whatever is left of Russia, they also join that camp, our neighborhood becomes unstable totally. We will be living in a horrible neighborhood then. So we have to, we cannot derail our relationship with Russia. But at the same time, we are not going to listen to what Russia and China is saying about our relationship with the United States, with the democratic world, because we believe that is where we really belong. So if that means that we have to maintain our foreign policy as an independent, that is what our independence is all about. We are not going to be part of any bloc. And yes, I know there has been problem in terms of India buying Russian oil. We are talking about a country with a 1.34 billion people. In spite of the fact that we are doing well, rather well economically, we still have a huge swathe of very poor people. Now, when you have got such millions and millions of poor people, can we afford to push our country into a recession like the West is doing itself to? And can we afford to make people suffer just because we have to stand up and say, oh, we do not, we have to be in one camp or the other. I mean, look at what is happening with Germany and Europe in general, and in terms of Putin. Now, when you look at that, I mean, look at the way the suffering is happening among the people over there. I mean, I would say that is bad governance, bad policy, where you do not take care of your people and instead you are talking about principles. What principles? Did America show any principle when it left Afghanistan the way? And I'm telling you, I'm very much pro India US relationship, by the way. I'm extremely, because that is where I think, as democracies, the two world's largest, most populous, and the oldest democracy in the world, I mean, these two countries, they can do miracles if they come together. And we see that is happening. If you look at the way Indians are doing in the US, I'm very, very pro US India relationship. But at the same time, just so that we can belong to a particular camp, do we make our people suffer? Now, that does not work like that, does it? So you say it is but natural if Russia is offering us discounted oil, if that helps us to an extent to stave off maybe a recession, should we buy it or not? Yes, we should. That is what the common consensus is. We cannot allow petrol prices or fuel prices to go beyond a point, because our people will suffer. Do we want our economy, touch wood, which is booming right now, by the way? We have the highest growth rate in the world. Now, do we get into a situation that brings us into a recession where people cannot put food on the table? We cannot have that. In fact, if you ask me, that is bad governance. What is the duty of the government? The government has to think of the poorest of the poor people, their own people. And that is what, when we are talking about India's foreign policy, that is what it is about. We have to think of our interests. Any country will do that. That is why I recommend to everyone watching it to watch Mr. Jaishankar's speeches. That is what he keeps talking about. Now, when it comes to foreign policy, you have to look after your own interest first. And there is no place to sit there and talk about things like Cold War II. Because you see, when you are looking at Cold War situation, the West's fixation with Russia, what has happened is that while the West, or say Mr. Biden for that matter, has been fixated with Russia, the actual pivot, the power struggle has shifted from the Atlantic Ocean to the Pacific. In the Pacific, because it's not Russia. Russia is, as I said, it's a rump of what Soviet Union was. Russia is nothing. But the West has also pushed Russia into the corner. I'm not justifying what Putin did, by the way. I mean, lots of people do try to justify what Mr. Putin did, by attacking Ukraine. No way. I mean, just because somebody is cornered, nobody attacks like that. But the fact is that he was also pushed into a corner. So how do we sort it out? We want the West to, number one, allow the talking to happen. It is not a matter of ego. When Ukraine has lost maybe 15 or 20% of its land territory, Putin is not going to give up. Putin is not going to give up that land. Come to the table, discuss what we have been saying right from day one. Okay, but nobody has been discussing, nobody is willing to talk. And all that they have been talking about is, the war must continue, the war must continue. And everybody is going to, so when at the time when China is sitting pretty, all you are focused on is Russia. You have just lost, the West has lost, I would say, they don't realize that the world has changed. I mean, there was a pivot to Asia when it came. Mr. Barack Obama did that, but Donald Trump did that. But when it comes to Mr. Biden, it is back to Russia. But the pivot is elsewhere. The pivot is elsewhere, and if the West does not wake up, I think there will be trouble. Yes, please. I think you are muted. I can't hear you.
You mentioned many points there that on the West. So the West. I live in this country and I love this country, but the West works on leverages. And one question usually comes is, why does the Asia always gets pressured by anybody? If you ask a regular American on the street and you talk these strategic affairs, first of all, most Americans are not even aware. If you ask them where is New Delhi, they won't be able to tell you on a map.
I can understand. I can totally imagine.
Okay, because that is not being taught here. So the West is just the US and the Europe is called the West, and Canada, and I don't know why Australia is called the West. I don't know that because it's in the Asia Pacific.
I think it's all about the skin color.
Skin color and also the Christian dominated countries or the colonies, British colonies.
Right.
So Canada is a British colony, US is a British colony, Australia is a British colony. Nobody is talking about the views of Native Americans or Aborigines or the Native Europeans. We are not talking about it. I have written a whole book on that.
Can I interrupt and mention a quick point?
Yeah, sure.
I recently read an article in one of the, am I allowed to mention a newspaper's name here?
Yeah, anywhere. Yes. Go ahead.
Okay. I read an article in The Guardian, which wrote an article about, as basically the whole point of the article is that as we were looking elsewhere, basically that is the point of the article, India is acquiring economic superpower status. I mean, it's good. It's good that they're not noticing, because you see, the minute they start noticing, they will start finding maybe, how come India is becoming so big? But the fact of the matter is that we are attaining, we are on our way to become an economic superpower. And if they wake up late to that, well, that's their problem, is all I can say.
The thing is, if you look at the American map, all the countries south of USA are poor. So the West, I'm just saying the US and the Europe, would never want India to develop. Never. Victoria Nuland was in India, and Victoria Nuland is known for balkanization. She toured only those people where Rahul Gandhi is going nowadays. She met the same people who Rahul Gandhi is meeting. So, so if India thinks that West is in their interest, I don't think so. West takes care of themselves only, and they want Asia to be divided so that they can. It's like we have heard the story of cat and the breadcrumbs, and how she wants to divide the bread. Monkey and the cat. She wants to divide the bread. So that's how they work on. And if you look at the entire colonial history, they have tried to separate Asia from Indochina, India from China, Southeast Asia from anywhere else, as long as everyone is dependent on the Western financial system, because that gives them the leverage. And a country of 1.4 billion people, like I am getting a lot of questions also on the chat, a country of 1.4 billion people trying hard to justify their independence to Americans or to the West, it's laughable from their point of view, from what I'm getting the feedback right now. So they really like a strong, like if you ask a regular American, not go by the State Department, they don't understand why a country of such a large country, which is Entire Europe, US, and South America combined has more people in that land would like to be on anybody's side because they are a country, they are a continent in itself. So, so why Indians or India tries to justify everything? That's the question. Did I summarize
No,
it?
no. What do you mean by justifying everything? The thing is, you see, if say for example, why are we being criticized in the West for buying, say, Russian oil discounted? First of all, Russia, our total oil purchase was about 1%. The thing is that you see, when there is a campaign of calumny, if I can use that word, against us by the Western press, by the we are vilified by the Western press in particular. You know, the Western press hates us. You know, if you check out some of the videos that I have done, and that's not my personal channel, by the way. If I can mention, it is the Sunday Guardian's official that YouTube channel. So if you see over there, I have talked about the Western vilification of India by the Western press. It's unprecedented. I don't think any other country ever has faced that kind of vilification. Of course, there are matters, you know, one of the reasons is racism. So, but apart from that, they do not think that we deserve a seat at the high table. Okay, they have a problem with our space mission. So, what our space mission can be, it's one of the most economical, most effective in the world. They don't like our space mission. They do not like anything about us. When you look at the Western press, they think we are basically New York Times did a horrible racist cartoon about us. Please check it out, about a man with a farmer with a cow trying to knock on the door of a fancy club where all these people are sitting with their sipping their and I mean sipping their wine and drinking. I mean, they're drinking their wine and smoking cigars and all. Where there is this really rustic farmer who is basically trying to get trash that club. So they have that image about India. The fact of the matter is that, you see, the West cannot put us down by spreading awful things about us, because we know what we are doing, we know what we are capable of. You know, when it comes to, I'll come back to the Russian oil shortly. Now, when it comes to from the kind of levels we have risen, you see, British colonialism. If you look at 200 years rule of British colonialism, I have done a video on that, by the way. I was countering Tucker Carlson, who had said the British had given Indian civilization. I said, what are you even talking about? Check India's history. India has had 5,000 years of civilization, or perhaps more. Continued, it has continued. So the thing is, you see, so when it comes to colonialism, 200 years of British rule, in that time, what happened was that they stole wealth and resources worth $45 trillion in today's terms. So they bled us dry. They took advantage of us in a way that we could not stand up. They thought we will not be able to stand up when they left this country in 1947. But we have done that. We are doing that every day. Large swathes of our very poor population, they are, this is an upwardly mobile society. We are moving up. Large sections of our absolutely poorest of the poor are going into lower middle class. The lower middle class are going up to the middle class. The middle class are going into upper middle class. It is a constantly upwardly mobile society. Sitting in the West, if you are reading some of these mainstream legacy newspapers about India, trust me, they don't even give 1% of the story of what is happening in India. So when coming back to buying our Russian oil, I mean, it was absolutely canard that was spread about us. But what happened was that our consumption of, we were buying, as Mr. Jaishankar has been pointing out, we have been buying in a whole year or whatever that much oil, which the Europe has been buying in one day. So even after our oil buying, we were, I think, somewhere in the 10th. Even after Russia became one of our highest suppliers of oil, we were, I think, 10th or 11th among the countries and the European Union and all who were buying from Russia. And only why were they coming after us? I mean, it was like as if it is India's the only one that is, creating the, I mean, breaking the world order and all, buying oil from Russia. They shouldn't have done that. I mean, look at the indexes, look at our position that we are. And again, now that the discounted oil is not coming, Russia is again gone down. I mean, we are still buying, and the highest supplier of oil is Saudi Arabia, Iraq, and all. I mean, Russia is nowhere among the top suppliers of fuel for us. We buy so much from the US. So you see, again, I'm going to say we have a huge number of poor people. Why will we make our people suffer just to keep the West's ego happy?
The when you say the Western leadership or the world order, and if you ask, and I really don't value American think tanks, because the American think tank, most of the think tanks are run by the American agencies, most of them. So, and most of the American media is fed by the agencies, and you can understand where I'm referring to. These are the agencies who maintain diplomatic pressure constantly, because they don't view India as a friend internally. For them, India is an independent country, and India can go either direction. So they will trust Philippines, because Philippines is like an American colony. They will trust Mexico. Mexico is an American colony, literally. They
No, but
But let me just complete 1 second. So the West will never want, that expectation to have, that the West will be just justice driven, truth driven, is too much high expectations. Even Europe doesn't trust it. You can see what is happening to Germany now. Largest economy, and probably they'll be the poorest economy very soon. So the thing is, the way the West works is, they do not want anyone to rise. As long, it's like there was a movie called Twins. You should watch that movie. And I don't recommend anyone, but you should see, there's dialogue over there. When the money talks, bullshit walks. That's the philosophy. You know, so they will never oppose China. You know why? China doesn't buy anything from them. There is no leverage in a war. China has their own weapons, even though they can be obsolete or whatever you can call it. But they have made that obsolescence by numbers. So they have numbers which are so huge that today Chinese Navy is the number one. Maybe they will just merchant Navy vessels with one gun on top of it and one flag of Chinese Navy. Can be even that. But that numbers is what is important for them. So therefore, China is respected militarily. India having a great military tradition is not respected. You will never see a mention of that anywhere. Why? Because the very famous Chanakya philosophy, never glorify the enemy. Never glorify, however strong they are. But internally, keep track of their progress. So the thing is, this is the philosophy in which they are working. So when the Indians try to expect that, yes, we are so loyal to you, we're trying to actually prove that we are pro West, or we are so pro, we get easily rattled by anything which the American media puts out. If I ask the audience, how many of the people have heard about New York Post or read anyone New York Post? Just wait a second. 25 responses have come just now. Just one question. Nobody has even read it, even once in their life. So no American is reading it. And most of the Americans, 70% of the Americans, very few educated who are the voters or who are active in the Democrat or Republican parties, they do not go to those newspapers. So
no, I think you are talking about New York Times.
as well as New York Post, Washington Post, nobody is
Okay.
reading it here. So those articles are posted articles, and most of the articles against India written by the Indian origin people. Rami Sen
Yes.
Gupta, read the names over there, and most of them, because they are all hired agents of the agencies, and they are paid. So most of them don't even know that who is hiring them. Why are they hired? Their English is not good. They have never done any book in the past. They have not written anything, but they're writing on New York Post, New York Times. So why does India value so much all these people who don't even matter? But the real sense comes to the mind is, the biggest threat to the Western dominance or leverage over India is Atmanirbhar Bharat. That's the biggest thing they have, and they want to break it. I'll give one example: Tejas, the Indian fighter plane, which is running on G404 IN-20 engines. Now, the point which I'm trying to say is that there also they have a leverage over there. So why do we allow them to have so many leverage? What we may say India allows them to have so many leverages.
Uh, yeah, can I say one thing? You see, I do not see this world as an either or, and I don't think our government also sees this as an either or situation. Now, when you talk about the West thinks that India can go either way, I don't think that is the case. India can actually carve out an independent space of its own where it is not either way. I mean, not about either this way or that way, but about having I would say cordial relationship with everyone in the world. So at the same time, we do not see the West as an enemy. You have to understand, when we are looking at the West, in the US in particular, there is a lot that we can offer them, that they have a lot that they can offer us. So we believe in give and take. And the thing is, you see, if situation was normal, we would have had that give and take with China as well. There was at one point of time, there was talk about China and Russia making the 21st century the Asian century. It's a different matter. Xi Jinping had the idea about this particular century being the Chinese century, not an Asian century. So that is where the conflict lies. So we are into giving and taking. We are a very, what shall I say? We are a very strong military power. Our economic power is increasing by the day. As I said, inside a few years' time, a couple of years perhaps, we are on our way to become the third largest economy in the world. In spite of that, we are a very democratic, very level headed, a power that wants to take everyone along. And we believe in the concept of neighborhood first. Say, when there were these, you know, we are the first responder when it comes to the disaster responses. Think of the kind of vaccines that we sent out to so many people, so many countries all over the world. We are committed to, I think, provide 5 billion doses of vaccines to the world by the end of 2024 or 2025, which we are manufacturing in India. So we are, say, the world told us that it's impossible to vaccinate our country, 1.3 billion people. Our government has done it twice over, okay, and without any problem. So you see, we are called the Dhananfari of the world, the medical shop of the world. We have the major. We are kind of supplying the world with generic drugs and all. So when I'm looking at that, we have a lot to offer the world, and the world realizes that. Say, for example, all the conversations that happen at the UNSC and all, there are lots of countries that are coming to us and they want us to talk to the Western powers on their behalf. The world is not just the Western powers. There are so many. I mean, they are just a handful. They may be controlling the world, but they're a handful. They see India as a mouthpiece for them. So we can do a lot of good. We are a force of good. We are actually a force of good. We do not go around conquering countries. We do not go around imposing sanctions. We are not, neither are we Putin, nor are we Joe Biden. Okay? The whole point is that we are a force of good. And the whole point is that, but does that mean that we are going to be, yes, we know the challenges. We know the challenges, but look at it like this. In 75 years, coming from where we have come, considering we had been sucked dry by the British, by our colonial past in the 200 years, they just sucked our blood dry. From there, if we have reached this level with the kind of handicap we had and the kind of handicap we still have, what matters is our brain power, our ability, our capabilities. And it helps. Of course, it helps that we have a huge population which is pretty fluent in English and all. So you see, I don't see it as a West versus India or or the Russian bloc versus India. It is not. The thing is that we are genuinely a force of good. We can do a lot of things. Nobody can ignore us. We have a huge market, a population that is kind of rising. So even if there are people who would want in the West who want us to not rise. But the fact of the matter is that because of commercial and trade interests, their own companies will be coming to us. Okay, so I don't think this West versus India is working or it will ever work.
Uh,
Yeah, please.
Good point. Good point. Actually, the thing is, the if you look at the media and everywhere, no one criticizes China, and the
Yes.
American media houses are, you may call it, China has invested a lot of money, and that can be a fact also, because you can do a fact check and check out the sources of funds. Can be right also, because like I said, when the money talks, bullshit walks. That's the American mantra. Okay, so it's nothing to do with anything else. But the military strength plays a lot in their mind. So when we say Russia is the biggest enemy because of US, and from many years you can see the movies and everything, despite China being growing, because Americans have a lot of leverage over China, lot of leverage. They can dry up their bank accounts like they did for Russia. China will be nowhere in seconds. They can do trade blocking against China. They can do many, they have so many leverages against China. They don't have to really worry about China. And China is their production manufacturing base. As far as India, India is in a mixed bracket. India has their own aspirations, plus India has maintained, but India is slowly getting leverage to them by buying their weapons. Now, so therefore, India has a lot of, so wherever they have more leverages, they are not worried about that country. Wherever they have less leverages, they'll keep complaining. And the media is used as a warfare tool because it's just to create propaganda. Now, when it comes to Russia, they have no leverage. A country with 6,500 plus nuclear weapons and enormous missile power, which can hit every part of the US whenever they want. And so there's no leverage, and that's why it's a threat. India is never a threat to them because there is so many leverages they have got. First of all, India's opposition is a leverage for them. They can use them willingly whenever they want to use that. So the the recently of late, like you have quoted Jaishankar many times, and he was in the US. He is highly respected because he just speaks from his heart, whatever he speaks. He has become a hero of the American State Department because the more he speaks, they understand more. So, like I said, you cannot speak in British English to an American. It is too difficult for them to get it. Britain is as much a foreign country, and even though it's their strongest ally, but if you talk to them plain speaking, like, hey, this is like we go to a coffee shop here, and I have so many friends, and we just talk straight. There is no attention to anybody's feelings, but we just talk because that's how it works with them. But if you expect to work in a pure dharmic way and your civilization and feelings, and everybody is confused, it's gone out. It's because I told you that they like straight talk, the straight talk. Now the the difference which the Narendra Modi government has made than his predecessor is that Narendra Modi government has been very friendly to the US, extremely friendly to the US, any administration. But at the same time, they speak plain talk. Like, this is what I want, this is what I want. But still, the most of the Indians do not get the India doesn't get a favorable deal with Americans, is that because there is too much leverage. There is no need to give them any deal. Like, if I'm a businessman and I'm working with you and you claim to be my friend and I'm selling to you, then I know that you're going to buy from me. Why should I give you any discount? You're going to buy from me. And if I create conflicts around you, you'll keep buying from me. There's no other option left. So the thing is, it's a very, we have to look at it in a new prism. And I keep writing in my books also that when you look at the democracy word, and very well history also very well. So the word democracy was coined in 1908 when the European settlers became more in number than the Native Americans. That's how the first 13 states in Philadelphia announced democracy. So democracy is a great leverage tool. Any democracy in the world can be easily interfered. Look at all the South American Latin countries. Everyone has a democracy where they are. All of them are poor. I'm not saying that we should go away from democracy. In fact, we should move towards loktantra, which is different than democracy. So the thing is, the why India gives so much leverages.
Yeah, yeah. When you are talking about no, when you are talking about giving leverages, the thing is that I mean, we also come. I would not say because of our history. Because of our history, we also have been talking from a position of weakness. Okay, and the thing is, you see, when we are looking at our history, we have been in a situation where it has not exactly been. We have not really been. No, this is a very complicated question. When you are asking me why is India giving so much leverages, but if we do not give leverages, they are also giving us leverages, isn't it? To an extent, say, for example, when we are talking about, say, developing this defense relationship, and at a time when we are, say, moving out of, say, Russia's sphere of influence militarily, okay, and when we are buying, say, Western weapons, so, okay, let me just give an example. Now, this F-16, for example, okay, when we are talking about the F-16, now there is a buzz in India now that suddenly these people have, the Americans, I'm told that is courtesy Mr. Joe Biden's present to the Pakistanis in terms of giving them a kind of a gift because they helped them to allow them the use of their airspace to capture that Ayman al-Zawahiri and all that Al-Qaeda leader. Now, if that particular company, that Boeing, or no, Lockheed Martin, now if they were hoping to sell a particular variety, a higher variety of F to us, I think F-21 or some one of the planes, now there is a kind of people are thinking again that, what are we going to, should we accept it or not? So if by supplying, if giving Pakistan the $450 million deal, if the US is going to lose a huge contract, a possible contract that is going to come up, and we need fighter jets, we have to buy lots of fighter jets. If they lose that contract and it goes to maybe the French or to maybe the Swedish or somebody else, isn't that a leverage for us also that we have over the US? Isn't our market a leverage of what we have over the US? The thing is, you see, think of the number of companies that are doing business in India. I think Amazon has, I think one of perhaps the largest share after the US. Amazon must be, or maybe China. Amazon has the largest business in US. I mean India. So many of their companies, and think of that, isn't that a leverage that we also have on them? Isn't that another way of looking at it? I mean, they cannot afford to lose our business. If they lose our business, it hurts them.
I mean, you made a very good point about the leverage because it works on both sides. It's a lever. It works on both sides.
Exactly.
You know? But the thing is, I'll say social media. If India is the largest user of American social media, which
Yes,
in the recent court cases in the US has come to know, Mark Zuckerberg has openly admitted that FBI controls them, who to put, who not to put, and the many agencies of the West have used social media to create unrest. If India is the largest user of Facebook, largest Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter,
yes, we are.
we are India is the largest
WhatsApp
user.
also.
WhatsApp also. India is the largest user, which is all operated from American servers. No servers are based in India, either American or Brazil or somewhere else, which is controlled by them fully. Now, yes, India has a leverage. They can block them. The moment they block Facebook, their share price will be half of what it is. But they
Yes,
don't. They're not threatened by it because they know India is never going to do that. India is working on it.
exactly.
So leverage. It depends on who has the longer lever.
No, here can I mention one thing? I'll tell you something. This is something they also don't understand. I mean, because by dint of our population, we may be the largest user of all these social media things. But you see, when it comes to the people, when it comes to the level of the people, India is a very close knit society. India is a very rooted to the ground society. And at the same time, the usage of social media, in spite of being among the world's largest, it's a very restricted usage, okay, when it comes to our population. So they don't really have that kind of leverage. So I would say that to say the Facebook can, I mean, I find it difficult to believe that Facebook or American social media, the way it functions here, can control the narrative in India, because here people talk to each other. Okay, here people talk to each other. You go to a neighborhood, people, I mean, families gathered together. I mean, the best way of communication is word of mouth, where you heard how did Mr. Narendra Modi get such a huge positive feedback and stamp from the whole, almost the whole country in 2014. He was just a chief minister of Gujarat. It was word of mouth. The Western press was writing horrible things about him. The media was writing horrible things about him. But who spread the word that he can do wonders? It was the laborer on the ground, say from Bihar and UP and different parts of the country who were working in Gujarat. They were coming back home and they were telling him that what a fantastic chief minister he is. So you see, Indians, after a point, they do not listen to what media says. I mean, or rather, let me put it this way, they will listen to what media says and they will toss it out of, I mean, they will listen with one ear and they just throw it out of the one ear. I mean, we say it like that. एक कान से सुनेंगे, एक कान से निकाल देंगे. That is what the whole thing is out. So the thing is, and they will do exactly what they think is the right thing to do, because people are constantly talking, people are constantly interacting, people are constantly talking. Here there is no secret. That is why I find it laughable when the world talks about, or the West talks about, democracy is dying in India. You have to come to this country to actually feel every second of your existence what democracy means. Here people are there's no secret. There's no secret. You know, all these, the West went nuts about millions of people dying in COVID. It didn't happen. That was all misinformation and lies. Here people know one death in one village. I mean, that will, news will spread to 20 villages. The MP, the member of parliament from there will go to and visit that person's house because of that death. In a country like India, you cannot hide anything. So what you read in the West about India is mostly junk, number one. And number two, our asset is our people. So we don't really care what the American social media influencers can do. It's ultimately the people who will decide.
No, you're right that the most of the, even in the USA nowadays, democracy is dying is the famous theme now in the media now, whether it's a Fox News or the CNN News, that American democracy is dying. And it's a very common theme, and which is again, the president of the country has already declared half the country as as terrorists generally, so is the president has declared it. Now I'm not even going there about on all these people who say, because most of the Americans, they love India not because of the call centers, not because of the weapons, not because of the economy. They love India because of yoga, Rishikesh, Vrindavan, Varanasi, and the other places of worship of Hindus. I will say Hindus because that's what they love it. They're not interested in any. I mean, most of the American media only talks about Saudi Arabia for oil, Middle East for oil, because they know they have so much leverage. They are the ones who made them rich. They don't care about it. But with India, it brings them something else which they don't have. They don't have the Hindu culture. They don't have yoga. They don't have vegetarianism, and they don't have Sadhguru. Very popular people. See what I'm saying? Like, I go to any American, he will try to tell me, see what Sadhguru said today. I said, okay, all right, I know about him, but so they're trying to impress me that I listen to Sadhguru. So they're trying to do that. This is the power. The International Day of Yoga was a very smart move, very smart
Yes.
move. And you'll see small yoga studios in Alabama, Mobile, Alabama. Who knows? Most of the Americans won't even know where is Mobile, Alabama. Some of them will really know. They're very well educated, but most of them will not know. Most of them will not know where the Baton Rouge is. They may not know. But you will find a yoga studio there, and you'll see a Sadguru playing over there, somewhere or the other. Motivational quotes of Sadhguru are very popular, and the Hare Krishnas, very popular on the ground. So in fact, there is a common saying that whenever Hare Krishna is singing in Europe, that means he's an American, because they think he's an American. They connect Hare Krishna to USA. So the point which I'm saying, this is the power. This is the, what you call it, the Indian soft leverage over the minds. So no politician can go against India, because
Exactly.
even Nancy Pelosi does yoga. May
Mm.
may not She may not admit it publicly, but many of these politicians go to yoga schools, and they attend yoga and other things. So the but I have not seen Indian embassy. They may do official some international yoga day as per whatever their rules are. They do that, but they don't go out on the street like other US consulate offices and the other countries do for their culture. Like Chinese will put so much money on Confucianism, so much.
Confucius Institutes.
Confucius institutes which are in every single campus and funded by the Chinese government, and to teach people Mandarin and what does Confucius stands for. That's what they do that. I have not seen that happening from India so far. I have not seen that Indian government is going to every single campus. Indian consulate officials, Indian consulate office don't even come to Indian events. Forget about others. Even when we invite them, and I have told so many times to come on Sattology, they will not come on Sattology event, but they'll go to Vietnamese Independence Day celebration. So the point is, there is no, what the India aspires, what India wants to convey, its own agencies don't follow it.
Yes, this I totally agree on, because you see, this has been our complaint, especially with this government, right from 2014, I would say, that that their communication, that when it comes to their communication, the communication policy is all messed up. Okay, they don't talk, and even when they're talking, because you see, there is a problem with I think, the diplomatic corps also. They kind of tend to sit on their laurels in terms of we are the world's largest, most populous democracy, and that should be enough. No, it is not enough, because you see, there are people out there who are constantly trying to hurt you. So you need to get your communication strategy right. And this is when you are talking about soft power. This is something that they do not pursue at all. And they are, of course, when it comes to Vietnam and all, I can understand why they're doing it, because we are in the process of building very strong relationship with countries around the South China Sea, and they do see us as a counter, as a against China. So these countries are also very keen to build very close relationship, military relationship with us as well. So I can understand why we are doing it. But yes, when it comes to spreading soft power, I don't think we do enough, and we need to do a lot, because it is ultimately about talking to the people. And I am, and not just that, I think all of us are very, very clear about one thing. It's all about the people. It is not about their rulers. The rulers, or whoever the government is, it's the people that who should decide, and the people should set the agenda, not the government. Okay, and that is the reason why it is so important to reach out to, for having a people to people contact, and for the governments also to reach out to the people. And actually, because a lot of solutions to a lot of problems come from that. I mean, when it comes to, and at the same time, if I can mention, India is much more than Rishikesh and Sadhguru. And I mean, why I am no way, I'm kind of denigrating them in any way, but there is so much more to India. I mean, it is not just because of our soft power that we are here. We have got tremendous brain power, by the way. I think we have there's much more to India. But yes, now you, of course, when it comes to this thing, you hear only about the yoga bit, or you hear what the Chinese press. I mean, I call half of this mainstream media as Chinese press, considering the kind of money that they get. The negative things they talk about India.
No, they saw the movie Twins very seriously, Chinese, so they use that very well.
Okay, if you don't mind, how much longer will this
Just
continue?
one thing, one
Okay, the
last
other
one.
thing is, I would have really liked to, know the questions that are being asked, because I can't see them here.
Yeah, many questions are coming by the chat, so it's a separate system which is coming on there. But thank you so much. I know you have to go, and thank you for coming. And we'll continue our discussion. There are a lot of things to cover, and we'll invite you more whenever you have time. You please come. And for all the viewers who have asked all these interesting questions, thank you so much. And also, she talks. She's a journalist, so she talks very frankly. You'll not see her talking like an expert, but she just talks what she sees. And so, thank you all for joining the show, and do watch it on YouTube as well. And thank you, Joyeeta, for coming on the show and speaking freely to all of us. Namaste. Thank you.
Thank you so much for inviting me for this show. And I really enjoyed talking because you see, when I start talking, I talk a lot. I don't stop, and that's what happened today. I really wish I could see the questions that are coming. Maybe certainly some other day we can sit down and we can chat more. I hope people liked what I said, and I hope that kind of misperceptions people may have about India, I've been able to dispel some of them. Because trust me, when it comes to India, we are very proud Indians. I'm certain in his heart, Aditya Satsangi is also a very proud Indian. We are very, very proud Indians, and we are very proud of what we are doing. So, but today, right now, by the way, is Durga Puja going on, and our Bengali huge festival for us. And I have to rush to, these functions right now. Happy Durga Puja to everyone. Happy Navratri to everyone. Thank you once again for inviting me. We will chat another day.
Yes, thank you, and namaste to all the viewers. Namaste. Namaste. Thank you.